Hello and welcome to Piano Lessons, Boulder. I'm Sarah Hager. You know that this is the 200th birth anniversary of Clara Schumann. This is the bicentennial year. She was born on 13th September 1819. And so I would like to devote a couple of videos to the creative friendship between the composer Robert Schumann and this great pianist Clara Schumann, and the wife of Robert Schumann. And before we start, I would like to give you a little background about the life of this 20-year-old composer Johannes Brahms, who knocked on the door of Robert and Clara Schumann in Düsseldorf on 13th September 1853, which was Clara Schumann's 34th birthday. So Brahms's grandfather actually is where we start, was an innkeeper, and he expected his son Johann Jakob to follow in his footsteps and look after the family business. But Johann Jakob, that is Brahms's father, had other plans. He wanted to take up music as a career. So at the age of 14, he left his home and apprenticed himself with a musician, as was the custom in those days, and for 3 years studied various aspects of music theory, musical instruments, and so on, and received a certificate from his teacher saying that he had basic training in all aspects of music. With this certificate, armed with this certificate, Brahms's father, Johann Jakob, went to the free city of Hamburg. It didn't have a prince. And there he earned his living, or supported himself, by playing the violin on the streets. Such musicians were called beer fiddler in Germany, or violinists who played for beer money. He boarded with an elderly spinster who supported herself by letting out rooms in her house to working bachelors and cooking their meals for them and being a sort of mother to them. At this time, Brahms's father was very young, 23 years old, and the lady who ran the hostel was 40. And yet he proposed to her after a few months, to her great astonishment. And so she wrote to her brother saying, one of my boarders, he's only 23 years old and he's proposed, what should I do? And the brother wrote back saying, accept, you fool, you'll never get another offer. And so they got married, and Brahms was born in 1833. Now, he was born, of course the parents were very poor, and Brahms was born in the slum district of Hamburg, in a slum tenement. And when he was 15, he started playing in a tavern on the waterfront. But before that, when Brahms was 4 years old, his father bought him a violin. But somehow Brahms had discovered a piano, maybe a beat-up old piano in one of the neighboring apartments, and he wanted to play the piano. So the father said, my dear boy, Europe is full of great pianists. There is Clara Wieck, and she's only 16 and she is a great, famous throughout Europe. You will have competition from such pianists. But if you play the violin, you can get a job playing in an orchestra. And Brahms said, no, I want to play the piano, not the violin. And he smashed the little child-sized violin his father had bought him. And so he started piano lessons with Dr. Kossel, who agreed to teach Brahms 3 times a week But Brahms went every day for a lesson, saying, "Ich habe mein Unterricht fertig, I have my lesson ready." And the teacher said, "Well, my dear, if you have your lesson ready, then I suppose I must teach you something new." And Brahms would say yes. And so he had lessons 7 days a week. And Brahms, his father, went to Otto Kossel and said, "Look, I don't have money to pay you for these extra lessons." And Dr. Kossel said, "Who thinks of money when one thinks of this golden child?" And so Brahms grew up, later taking lessons with Dr. Markson, a distinguished piano teacher who agreed to teach him at a discount. And Dr. Markson grounded Brahms in the classics and in the art of composition, music theory, harmony, counterpoint, taught him constantly to transpose at the piano by ear. And then Brahms, when he was 19, got a break when the Hungarian violinist Remenyi asked him if he would be his accompanist at the piano on a tour of Europe. During this tour, Brahms met the great violinist Joseph Joachim in Hanover. Joachim had played the Beethoven violin concerto at the age of 12 under the baton of Mendelssohn, and the newly married young couple Robert and Clara Schumann were in the audience. Clara was a great pianist, and she went immediately backstage to meet the 12-year-old boy and ask him if he would like to play Beethoven's violin and piano sonatas with her. The two of them teamed up, and so the 20-year-old Joachim had long known this famous musical couple, Robert and Clara Schumann. And when he met Brahms and heard Brahms's compositions, which Brahms played to him, Joachim said, "Look, nobody even knows that you exist. But your music deserves to be known. You must meet my friend, Robert Schumann, who has a music magazine and will write about your compositions in." And so, on 13th September 1853, Brahms knocked on the door of Robert and Clara Schumann in Düsseldorf. He came carrying a letter from Joachim, informing the couple about that this is a young composer, and Joachim added, "He is pure as a diamond, soft as snow." And the eldest daughter of Robert and Clara Schumann went running to open the door, and she wrote later on as an old woman, "A young man as beautiful as the day stood in the door. I told him that my parents had gone for a walk and to come back later." Brahms returned later that evening, and Schumann said, "Well, since you are here, why don't you play me your music yourself instead of me having to sight read it?" Brahms started to play his F minor piano sonata, and Schumann was so stunned that he ran upstairs to call his wife. But Clara, with her concert pianist ears, was already running down the stairs and asked her husband, "Who is playing duets?" And Brahms's famous answer, which he wrote in her diary, her journal, that night, "No one is playing duets. An archangel has descended from heaven and is playing in our house." But when Brahms saw Clara Schumann, he stopped playing. And Clara said, "Oh, please don't stop playing. Your music is so beautiful. Won't you please continue playing?" And Brahms said, "No, madame, in front of you, I cannot play the piano." And she reassured him, and he played, and thereby began a lifelong friendship first between the couple, and after Schumann's death, 2 years later, and the friendship between Brahms and Clara Schumann continued for another 40 years, till her death in 1896. And at this point, I would like to stop and leave the rest of the story for next time. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time.